This day in sports history. It's June 1st, and with the Pacers and Knicks battling it out in the Eastern Conference Finals, it's been reminiscent of previous playoff battles between these two teams. And a quick note, I'm recording this on Saturday morning. I don't have any precognition of what happened in the game later on this evening, so this series may actually be over at this point. But, with Tyrese Halliburton giving the choke sign in Game 1, even though it was a bit premature since his shot only tied the game and sent it into overtime, it was a callback to what Reggie Miller did on this day back in 1994. Now this was Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Pacers and the Knicks. Game 5 was back at Madison Square Garden, and to say that the Pacers had struggled in the Garden would be a gross understatement, losing all but 2 of their previous 33 games that they had played there. And through the first 3 quarters, it seemed like that storyline was going to play out again. The Pacers started slow, battled back a bit, but still trailed by 12 in the 4th. And then something funny happened. Reggie Miller ignited his game. Well, he may have had some assistance with that from avid Knicks fan Spike Lee, who had been chirping at Reggie for the entire game. But Miller started raining in shots from everywhere, the wing, the corner, the elbow, threes, twos, and every time he hit another shot, he turned his gaze to Spike Lee in his courtside seat, suggesting, hey, it may be a good time to stop talking.
Miller open again, his foot on the line, that's a 2-pointer. And Reggie Miller in an animated discussion with Spike Lee, who is an ardent Knicks fan and has a courtside seat. I think Spike has him revved up.
With Haywood Workman on the free throw line shooting a pair, Miller looked over at Spike, held up 4 fingers, and then gave him the choke sign.
Reggie Miller giving the choke sign to Spike Lee. Spike is appealing to the official, Dan Crawford. I don't think that Spike realizes he's not in the game. It does not matter what Reggie does in the direction of Spike Lee. He wants a taunting foul called on Reggie.
Miller continued to bury shots and bury the Knicks. This was the birth of Reggie Miller, the Knick Killer. He scored 25 of his 39 points in the 4th quarter as the Pacers went on a 23-3 run to easily erase the deficit and win Game 5 93-86. In the aftermath, a lot of Knicks fans expressed their disdain for the accelerant that Spike Lee tossed on the burning ember that was Miller, with the New York Post blaring the headline the next day, "Thanks a lot, Spike." Indiana's joy would be short-lived, though. The Knicks would win the next 2 to take the series in 7 games. This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. Sterling Soap is 100% natural, and with a variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, cologne, and many more personal care products in a large variety of scents, you're sure to find something that's perfect for you or that special someone in your life. Check them out at sterlingsoap.com. On this day in 1988, the original version of John Madden Football was released to be played on a Commodore 64 or an Apple II. The game was pretty revolutionary for the time, even if it was a little bit light on sound. Here's a little 8-bit taste for you. The game's origins actually stretch back to the old Stratomatic stats-based board games. Trip Hawkins, the founder of EA Sports, played a lot of Stratomatic games back in the 70s, and when he went to Harvard, he started working on a football-based strategy computer game. Now, originally, Joe Montana was approached to be the pitchman for the game, but he was already doing stuff with Atari. When Hawkins and another EA founder approached Madden, he said yes in the hopes that it would be a way to teach the game to a mass of people. When the original design of the game had 7 players on each side, Madden threatened to walk away from the project, saying, "I'm not putting my name on it if it's not real." The video game took 3 years to develop once Madden signed on. It had a moderate start, but once it landed on the Sega Genesis system, it took off. Now, it's gone through a lot of updates and changes throughout its history, and of course looks and sounds a whole lot different now.
He's down at the 7, and he will get
The game is still alive and thriving, with Madden NFL 26 available now for pre-order and set to be released August 14th. You know, when Madden was on the sidelines coaching for the Oakland Raiders, he was known to do a little screaming, but he never reached the nuclear level of Phillip Wellman. Who is that, you may be asking? Well, on this day in 2007, Wellman had a major league meltdown in a minor league game. The AA Mississippi Braves were in Chattanooga playing the Lookouts. The game had been delayed by rain. Maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe he was hangry. In the third inning, Braves pitcher Kevin Villa threw his first pitch and it was called a ball. Well, Braves manager Wellman screamed at the home plate ump Brent Rice, "Where was that pitch?" At which point, the third base umpire, Rusty Barrett, threw him out of the game. When Rice made the signal that Wellman had to go, he went, and he went off. Wellman stormed out of the dugout, threw his cap at Rice's feet, and screamed. Then he walked to home plate, covered it completely with dirt, and drew a large home plate in his dirt pile. Then he yelled some more at Rice before storming off to have words with third base ump Barrett. After a few seconds of that, Wellman pulled third base out of the ground and walked toward second before tossing it toward the outfield. But the pièce de résistance was still to come. Wellman then walked towards the pitcher's mound, went face down on the grass, and commando crawled several feet, picked up the pitcher's rosin bag, pantomimed like it was a grenade, and he was pulling the pin with his teeth, and then he lofted a perfect grenade toss to the plate umpire's feet. He got up, went to second, pulled that bag up, and carried it and third base to the outfield, where he tossed them again. As he approached the outfield fence on his way to the Braves' locker room, he stopped on the warning track, blew kisses to the crowd, gave the "I'm out" signal, and walked through the door. The tirade lasted 3 minutes and 20 seconds and is without a doubt one of the all-time great pieces of theatrics on a baseball field in the history of the game. It is not hard to find the video if you want to watch it. Just type Phillip Wellman in any search bar, and it will probably be the top of the list. On this day in 2014, it was Mr. Game 7 Justin Williams doing it again. It was Game 7, obviously, of the Western Conference Finals between Williams' Los Angeles Kings and the Chicago Blackhawks. The fact that this series even went to a Game 7 was a bit of a shock. LA had taken a 3-1 series lead, but after a double overtime loss in Chicago and then a loss at home in Game 6, well, here we were. The Blackhawks took a 2-0 lead in the first period. The Kings cut that in half on Jeff Carter's "was he offside? Was his stick above the crossbar?" goal. And then Justin Williams tied it up with 2:39 left in the first with another one of his Game 7 goals. Now, at this point in his career, this was his 7th goal to go along with 7 assists in 7 wins in Game 7s. Now, that combination on a Vegas slot machine will win you a lot of money. That also tied him with Glenn Anderson for the most Game 7 goals in NHL history. Chicago would regain the lead, but the Kings tied it again and then won it in overtime with Alec Martinez's goal. LA would go on to win the Cup, beating the New York Rangers in 5 games, and after the series ended, Mr. Game 7, Justin Williams, was awarded the Conn Smythe Trophy as the MVP of the 2014 Stanley Cup playoffs. On this day in 1957, Cal Berkeley Jr. Don Bowden became the first American to run a sub-4-minute mile. Think about that just a bit. That's more than 3 years after Roger Bannister had become the first human to do it, and as close as American Wes Santee had come to beating Bannister to the punch back in '54, it does seem a little bit odd that it took another 3 years for an American to eclipse the 4-minute barrier. But on this day, running on a clay track in Stockton, California, Bowden stopped the clock at 3 minutes 58.7 seconds. It bested the previous U.S. record of 4 minutes and a half seconds set by Santee in '54. It was the 3rd fastest mile run in history, and at 20 years old, Bowden was the youngest to ever go sub-4. It was also the only time he ran under 4 minutes, preferring the 800-meter over the mile. On this day in 1925, it was the start of an epic streak. Lou Gehrig pinch hit for Pee Wee Waninger, beginning his streak of 2,130 consecutive games played. Gehrig replaced Wally Pipp at first base the following day and would not miss another game until May 2, 1939. He did have some close calls during that time. He was ejected from a game in 1933, but since he had already had an at-bat, it kept the streak alive. He was hit in the head by a pitch in a mid-season exhibition game in 1934. The pitch knocked him out for about 5 minutes, but he played the following day. Later that year in July, he had a back issue that nearly kept him out of a game. He was listed as the shortstop on the lineup card that day, made a plate appearance, got a hit, and then was replaced by a pinch runner. There was also a game when manager Ed Barrow declared a rainout on a day when Gehrig had the flu. Yet, not a single drop of rain fell from the sky that day. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. The word silhouette is eponymous. Etienne de Silhouette was a French politician in the 18th century who was said to be a notorious cheapskate. As to why the outline of someone's head came to be referred to as a silhouette is not exactly known, but people have speculated it could be a reference to his extreme frugality in that a silhouette is the least expensive form of art. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.